Hey, it's Andrew, and we are about to start another long overdue video and long overdue interview. But before we did, just wanted to give a quick little note about what to expect for today's presentation. You probably noticed I'm always trying to do something a little bit different, a little unique, and give you variety. And for today's interview, just because it naturally lent itself in this way, I went for something more conversational. So you're about to get a brand new interviewing experience, at least in the context of what I've done on my channel. And I want to thank Holli and Jeanna for being such perfect guests to experiment with this on this way. I guess this is the closest for anyone that's seen the Joe Rogan Experience or another type of podcast interview like that. This is the closest that I've come to in that style, where a lot of what we've got going on here is very conversational. But as always, I try to make sure, and Holli and Jeanna were very helpful in this, that we still inserted a lot of important nuggets of value and wisdom and insight. So without further ado, I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's dive on into this new interview with Holli and Jeanna, and please enjoy. Cool. So if you ladies are all ready to dive on in?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, in that case, hey everyone, Andrew here, otherwise known as the guy who wrote the last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read. And I feel like I say this every single time, but I'm going to say it again. I am super, super pumped for who I have I'm bringing to the table for you guys today. And we've got a pair this time, the first pair in the history of my YouTube channel. We've got Holli and Jeanna, the hosts of LOA Uncorked. Ladies, thank you so much for being here. I wish I can give you an intro that does you justice, but I think by the time this interview is done, everyone's gonna know what you're all about. So welcome, thanks so much for being here, and welcome to my YouTube channel.
Oh, thank you, Andrew.
Fantastic.
We're so excited to be
We're
here.
the first, too.
The first pair.
The first
The
duo.
first-
I mean,
All right. Well, and we have more surprises in store for you.
mhm.
I don't doubt that one bit. And it's funny, full disclosure for the audience, we've already been dealing with some surprises tonight. We're starting over an hour late because for some reason, not just yours, but a bunch of emails started going into my spam folder and I didn't even see them there. So it's always funny when unexpected things happen. And I'm sure, you can relate to that just like anyone else, but it's, roll the punches. We still have smiles. We're still like moving on. And I'm sure that delay, for whatever it did, contributed in some way that we don't even realize. And maybe it was as simple as occurring to you to take off your earphones and headphones and be more comfortable, or maybe it was something else, but who knows? But we're just rolling with the punches, right?
We look less legit with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Those things. But I do think it's much more comfortable, to your point. Yeah.
Well, and Andrew, this is a really important point that I'd like everybody to understand, that we were thinking the same way before we connected. Gina and I are sitting here. We're like, we don't know where Andrew is.
I think we got sucked up by the aliens.
By the aliens.
Yep.
We
We're
concocted
worried.
stories against you, right? Really for you, right? But the reality is, we sat here and I said, well, if it's not meant to be tonight, it's not meant to be. And I don't always know the answer. And sometimes you never know why. Like, we're trying to concoct the earphones, and sometimes you don't know why things happen. And what I say is, release any resistance to that, or we weren't angry at all. In fact, actually,
Disappointed.
no, you know what we did? We went down and got a glass of champagne.
Nice.
It is LOA Uncorked, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's some bubbles. And so we did that. We haven't drank it yet, clearly, but we were making our time valuable. So we're like, okay, it's working for us. So I just think that when things don't work out exactly as planned, as you said, you have to give up and just realize there's something greater that's happening, and I don't resist it.
Yeah. And we're not even shoehorning this right now. We were all up for it, so we still did it, but it could have just as easily been a thing where we just rescheduled and it would have worked out that way also.
It would have been okay too. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're glad to be
glad
here
we're
tonight.
here. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
so glad to have you. And full disclosure for the audience, I'm not sure when publishing happens, but I was lucky enough to be a guest on LOA Uncorked, and I just fell in love with both your energy, because you're both so different in your personalities, but you complement one another so well. And I never even asked you there. We didn't really have that conversation, like how far back you both go, and do you both go back in the same way to law of attraction, or did one of you introduce it to the other? Like, how's the history there in the context of creating the podcast together?
Great question. And to answer your question, it's the Thanksgiving. You are the Thanksgiving episode.
Absolutely.
Nice.
I'm grateful for you.
Yes.
And like I said, I went crazy over your book, and I go crazy over. I don't go crazy over all the law of attraction. I've been in this space for a while. I've been reading books for a long time. She gets stuck with the Christmas presents all the time. Here, you got to read this. You got to read this. And your book was, I think, something I would have loved to get in my 20s. I'm hoping your audience is younger, but it happens at any age. But your book in my 20s would have changed my life. It is the last book you ever really need. And I was giddy about it. And I'm giddy about your emails too. So I want to talk a little bit about your emails later. And so we just want to say that it just so happened, it was an accident. Nothing's an accident. I don't believe that, but it just so happens our programming could dial, because we dial you in before our other episodes. And it's Thanksgiving. So it's perfect. In gratitude to our audience and for you, we are super excited for your debut on our podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Recommended it to my sister, and her and I are listening to the audio together. I didn't dive in as quick as Holly did to the book in the short time we had before, from scheduling to actually doing the podcast. But my sister goes, it is incredible.
It is.
And I mean, I knew it was. I mean, I heard some of it from Holly, but she's like already changing some practices around it. So it's good stuff.
Thank you. This is my new requirement. I have to show this to all incoming guests. Like, you all have to compliment the book now. You've got to like raise to the level of Holly and Jeanna.
I wouldn't if I didn't believe it. So that's really true. But
thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's very well deserved. It was a very ambitious and a beautiful piece of work, really, that you should be proud of. And anyway, so and
you sound great on the audio too.
You do, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, I will take that compliment. Definitely.
Okay, so going back, listen, this is the funniest thing. This is like so funny. So this week we were posting on Instagram, and we're not the best at that. We don't do it all the time, but we like to do it. And we had my niece's birthday in New York City. And this was in 2015. So she posted a picture of us in New York City. So I know we're coming to your homeland. Okay, I don't know exactly where you're at, but we're in New York City, and there's a picture of us just going to town. We're putting our lipstick on. We're in this restaurant. We're giving advice, just like this. It's just
it looked something like that.
We looked younger, but we were doing the same.
Same hair color was slightly different.
Yeah, but same shit. Okay, and she said, and she's an artist, and she said, you guys need to do a podcast. And we were like, no. Okay, and we left. And so the seed was planted then, and I never.
And she bugged us for a good couple of years, I think, before she gave up, and kept saying, "You guys really should do it. You've got great energy. You know, a lot of very sweet things you've said." So that's when the idea around LOA Uncorked started. Although it was kind of a different model in the beginning. Holly was one help evolve it to the LOA Uncorked, but we've been toying it around for a while.
Well, and we have a corporate gig together. So we've been together since 2004.
Oh, wow.
And our corporate gig,
I hired her.
I know. I mean, she doesn't know why. And she takes interviews. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't take me after the first time.
I don't know either. I was sold interview number one, but
I know.
But
I wasn't being interviewed as an accountant. So that is a little sus right there for sure. But we, so we live in Seattle, and traffic is horrible here. So we would commute, 2 to 4 hours a day to go to see our boss and to Seattle. And on the drive, sometimes we'd have people with us, and we knew when we had people, we're always giving advice. And
the banter happens the minute we get together.
Right.
Anywhere we are. This is kind
people
of what
would be dying in the car of laughter. And then, of course, we always have like a salient point. Most of it, a lot of it is law of attraction based. So I'm segueing to the law of attraction. So a lot of it is there, and some of it's just life lessons. And so people would laugh. And I think, I really think that when you have a calling to do something there, and I never wanted to, wanted to do a podcast. And once we did it, we're like, how come? Why did we never do this? Like, why did we do this in 2015?
It's funny how that works.
We weren't ready. There's a readiness. And so we ended up, I ended up showing up one day saying, we have to do this with wild, crazy eyes.
But she gets that way. Like I've seen it recently about, some other ventures we're going into, and it's scary. I have to just sort of like go, okay, because I'm scared. But then I sort of come along. I just take it, but she goes from nothing to,
Yeah.
I have this, calling.
Like when in doubt, follow crazy eyes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or run.
And since we have a corporate gig, we've been able to share law of attraction. We've been able to share, psychic readings. We have psychics on our podcast, and we're able to share the metaphysics and life's journey.
Well, and what I think was interesting that, I didn't really realize at the time when we started the podcast is it's been the fact that we've worked together pretty closely for 15 years has allowed us to practice these things and build a relationship and a comfort level, both in a really formal setting and also just in a very private friendship setting. That is, you're blessed to have it in your lifetime if you have one, blessed if you have many. So I truly think it comes like breathing to us because it's what we do every day. And Holli I came from a family where spirituality was, from a metaphysics standpoint, was very prevalent. My dad was very much into the I Ching, and he was very much into feng shui and, very Eastern thought processes and all the information around that. And Holli did not come from that background, but evolved into it. And I've said it on the podcast many times. I think the Holli today, because she's tenacious and she's smart and inquisitive and, passionate, came along and eclipsed me quickly in terms of what I naturally knew or grew up around. And so it's just been an interesting thing to watch her. And then the application of, hey, let's, bubble up for this meeting because it's going to be some, messy energy in the room. And we would practice, and it was interesting that we could dialogue about it and actually be able to see the impact of the energy and the effort and changing energy in a room. And so it's been actually a beautiful 15 years to really practice for something that now just comes like breathing.
Yeah, I don't know, Andrew, did you have law of attraction in your childhood? Or I know your story afterwards, I'm sure your audience does, but did you have that kind of freedom in childhood?
Well, I never learned about law of attraction until I was in my 20s. I can look back to my childhood and probably spot events where it was in play. But at the time, it was never like a concept in my mind. Even the idea of thoughts creating anything wasn't really an idea in my mind until I hit my 20s. So I almost had that really, basic normal childhood. And then boom, all of a sudden I'm an entrepreneur and I'm looking into every which way to try to figure things out of how do I improve my life? How do I improve my skill set? How do I invite more? And I just found my way into it. And I love the fact that you both are coming from such a different place, but simultaneously like you link up together. And the perspectives that I got from you, just even when we were interacting on your show, very unique and very refreshing. And we were even talking before we hit the record button here. I'm putting you in front of my audience where some of the things we say are directly in line and some are the same thing, but they sound different and some are completely different. And I love the fact that, for example, I talked about the Great Reset, or I forgot even how I phrased. I didn't say Great Reset. I said
the hard reset.
The hard reset. You see, I even forget all my own emails that I send out, even though that's such an important topic. I bring up the hard reset in emails that I send to readers. That really describes that thing where sometimes you'll be doing law of attraction methods and things will seem like they're falling apart, but really they're just coming together and you're shedding old skin. And I guess Holli, I'll kind of like, throw it back to you because I remember you said you got a different take on that or a different perspective, which I thought might be fun to share with my audience who may have read that email already.
Yeah, that's great. No, I love that email because that's so true. And you can help out too, Jeanna, that sometimes with harder things, like let's see, you're trying to manifest a new job or a new career, and you just keep hitting walls and it's just not happening. And you're doing your practices and, it's happening. And I think that, we believe that you have to look at what you came into this world to be. So we look at that actually through astrology, not all astrology, I mean, although it all helps, okay, we look at through the North Node, the rising sign, and the sun sign, of course. But we look at, and where the houses are placed. But we look at that because we say that when you were born, there was an imprint of planets in the sky that kissed you at birth with certain attributes. And I'll give you an example. We just did a reading for a audience member, mm-hmm. And on air, people didn't know who she was, and she wasn't online. But then she wanted to follow up, and I'm looking at her chart, and we were just hitting her soul parts. We weren't hitting other parts of the chart. And I looked at her chart, and I don't know her. Jeanna knows her, yeah. And I said, "Have you always had issues around money and security?" She goes, "My whole life." Okay. And I went, so if she's one of those girls with your book, yeah. trying to manifest a shit ton of money,
she's afraid,
there's a fear below it. And so, and I was like, okay, well, let's unpack this. Okay. Let's figure this out. Let's unpack what this is. Go, it's so, and once people hear that it's normal to, yeah. You were actually born that way, born to be hardwired that way, and that other people don't think that way. Right. Not everybody's like you. And unpack it. So we unpacked it. And once you unpack it, it frees you to start manifesting more and more abundance. Because once you have awareness, you can go to work on freeing whatever that is and living in joy. I mean, you talk about living in joy, yeah. Like you be happy, be joyful. But if you're always thinking, okay, I shouldn't buy that guitar because it's too much money, or, I can't afford to go on that trip, or there's people that have money issues don't even realize the tracks that are in their brain about money. Mm-hmm. And so we say, if you're having a tough time, I like the hard reset. It's like, let's take a deeper dive into who you are and have some self-awareness so that we can walk in joy. And I'll give you another example. So Jeanna's North Node is in Capricorn, which is a very like get shit done kind of, sign, and it's really and a North Node is where your soul wants to be in this lifetime. And, it's very much about ambition and goals and leadership and all of this. So if she's trying to manifest a job in a cubicle, or she's upset about her job and wants to manifest something she doesn't know, like, okay, I want to do your practices, Andrew. I'm just going to throw it out there, say, give me a better gig. Maybe they need to be a little bit more specific. And yeah. you can opine upon all of this, Andrew, which I love to hear your viewpoints, is if she's trying to do that, she's going to meet with resistance. And we also say the opposite of the North Node is what you came into this life, or you were, God blessed you with these gifts. The South Node is about nurturing and home. So if she's staying at home, being a housewife, she'd be going crazy. Yeah. And she wouldn't be walking in joy, and manifestation of things would be very, very hard for her to do that. She needs to be the leader. She needs to stand up and be ambitious. Mm-hmm. And so when you align around like your soul and what your expression is in this lifetime, we think it makes all the manifestation all the more impactful and I don't want to say,
holistic. It's almost holistic.
Yes.
It's like a you're manifesting something that will be to your soul's desire, like right. what you're brought here to do, right. Versus just manifesting something that you may be able to manifest, but it doesn't have the impact.
Right.
Your soul and your life experience in this lifetime should.
And I do believe that, it will speed up. We talk about timing and universal timing and, what's a short period of time to get something versus a long period of time is not of essence. And I laugh because I say I manifested specific toe socks in a matter of hours. Like, did I need those toe socks? Okay. Like, no, I did not.
Well, you talked about it for like ever.
Toes in socks? I mean, I don't even know. I mean, it almost feels wrong. Like there's something in between your toes.
It can't look right either.
I snapped photos of it. I mean, I was like so delighted. A matter of hours.
I got all of them.
I mean, there's no resistance to that. I looked at it, I enjoyed it. I at a shop, and I thought how neat it was. And then in 4 hours, somebody sent them to me that I didn't know
At the office.
at the office with a card for
And
no
we don't
reason.
work for like an apparel company at
No.
all. So
No, we do not.
It was an odd sales
never
gift.
never to be had. But so I would like to think that I'd like the audience to not have to get stuck. And like being stuck is the worst feeling.
Yeah.
And so we try to help unstick you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm hearing as you describe this, and obviously, human nature being what it is, we're always going to look at something through our own lens. So I'm paraphrasing. Let me know if I misrepresent what you're talking about. But what I pick up out of that is, when you're going against your own nature, you're creating friction and resistance. And when there's something that doesn't align with your soul, as you put it, you're creating friction and resistance. And when you're basically just going against the grain of who you are, and you're basically removing or preventing or blocking off joy, that's a block to your manifestation. So if I'm understanding you right, part of what you're doing through the astrology and through your understanding of that is finding ways of having a deeper, more insightful understanding, which will then lead to relief, which in and of the relief or through the relief, all of a sudden the pathway and the gateway to manifestation becomes open.
I think that was beautifully said. And I like how you are able to articulate everything I said in a very simple way. I enjoy that.
Yes.
Actually.
I think
like we're stealing that one. We're going to take this recording and use it, right? And by the way, you make a little joke like, oh, I said it really quick and you said a little bit longer. There's something going on right now that I want the audience to notice that I don't think they are noticing right now, and I don't even think you both are noticing, not to make you self-conscious. But you both right now, who you're being and what you're doing is a wonderful leading by example lesson for people to look of two people that are just in joy, almost in for a couple times I wasn't even in the conversation. It was just you two. You're just enjoying and being in that moment. And I think just observing you right now in this way, I believe is a wonderful, good feeling example to just look at and observe in how you might want to be influenced in whatever you're doing in your life. I think there's something important to talking about something and going in different directions with it and exploring and just feeling good and going back and forth. There's an energy there that really takes care of everything else. So I love just watching you two in action. And that in many ways is why I was so enthusiastic about even inviting you on. I mean, I knew that you would have insights to share, but I also just wanted the essence of who you were on camera for my audience to enjoy. So I just wanted to highlight that for people watching right now.
I love that.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's interesting because you're like, I don't know whether you guys know it, but I'm very aware because I have, aspects that aren't like that, other things that I have to do that aren't easy in the flow. But when we're in the flow, I consider that in the flow, being in the present moment. I get sick of some of the cliche things that we always talk about. And I want to rebrand everything, but
she's not a marketing person either.
But I really want to. I want to rebrand all the cliches. So being in the present moment, people will be like, what the hell are you talking about? But you're right. It's like the joy that comes out of just having a dialogue. And she said it earlier. She said, it's like breathing.
Yes.
And I said it earlier when I was talking. I was saying, I'm so excited. I get to be with Jeanna and Andrew tonight, and I was excited.
We've been excited all. I texted you first thing this morning.
Yeah, and I said, oh, I get to use 100% of my brain and my heart together. What a beautiful, and I quoted that today. And I was like, what a beautiful thing. So I would just say that, thank you for noticing that. And that is something that your audience, when you don't feel that way, that's an area that can be changed. We can manifest something different to get in that flow. And then your toe socks will start coming. I mean, that's what happens. I mean, who doesn't want toe socks?
Who doesn't want it? Oh, and a pot holder. You got a
of
pot
course.
holder.
Yeah. I'm green. Yes,
very exciting stuff.
I'm very good at getting these little tiny gifts. Very good.
Well, I mean, and you read my book. I mean, those to me are wonderful raindrops. I mean, those are just indicators like, well, you're just you're both really just powerful creators, and you can invite stuff in, and these are just repeated signs and signals that you just get to enjoy, whether it's toe socks or pot holders or anything else.
Well, I love that. And what I'd ask your audience to do is to find a partner that they can brag. It's all about bragging, Andrew. And so when these things would show up in my office, I would call her. She's busy. She was working. I'm supposed to be working too. I would
call, text,
instant message her, and I go, guess what I got? And I'm jumping up and down for a pot holder. I'm going crazy about a pot holder because it's really not about the pot holder. And usually I gave everything away. I manifested like, what was it? Like 10 Jamba juices. I didn't know what to do with them. They said this order for Holly Moini. They came in and the front desk gal said, these are yours. And I said, no, there is a mistake. And there was no mistake. They never came back for them. And I went and I felt like Santa Claus, okay, without the beard and hopefully not the belly. And so anyway, I went around and delivered all this stuff. And you know, it makes you feel like $1 million, Andrew. And so for me, I like to brag to her. Okay, so find yourself a bragging partner. And then the other thing that we're doing is what you told us you did off camera when you were discussing, when you were on our podcast. And since we've been doing it, I laugh every night. And laughter,
oh my God.
It's not a competition.
It is a little bit.
We have to thank you for this because I have endless amounts of joy. And I believe that when you give this joy, so you gave us this technique, and this joy compounds to you 1,000 times over, and it will. Okay, so this is the joyful thing. So on our iPhones, we record our gratitude every night. It doesn't have to be about each other. It's just gratitude
just in general.
But like, listen,
so
okay,
fun.
like I cry of laughter, and there's always something fun. There's always heartfelt things in there too, but it's spiced up
There's
with
some
horse shit. In the middle,
clown shit, horse shit, all of it.
In the middle. Okay, and I like, usually we try to skip it by the end of the night, and so like you go to bed laughing, joyful, and
we've only been doing it like
since
we
week
talked
and
to
a half
you for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So not long, but I was thinking about this last night when I was listening to yours. I'm like, they're already evolving. I remember you saying that you and a dear friend of yours share that.
We don't know how they do it. We do the voice.
Yeah, we do the voice, but it doesn't matter. But you were saying on the podcast that it's fun to go back and like look at the evolution of what you've been grateful for, and how much gratitude there really is in our everyday life. And I was thinking about that last night as I was listening to yours. I'm like, I already feel like that we're getting this and we're exploring all the different ways you can be grateful.
I think it's like momentum. It's like a freight train.
Yes.
It's like a gratitude freight train.
Yes.
That gets going, and you know it's heavy. It's going choo choo, and it just goes. And with that freight train of gratitude is this higher. I mean, I was thinking of it as vibration, right? Higher vibration, higher elevation. We can't get angry if we're late. Oh, it's meant to be. Okay. Right. Like, you know, this is the gratitude train. So we have you to thank for that, but we're super funny. You would want our gratitude list.
You know, you might have to start like publishing them on the podcast, right? Or make a new one. And just for clarity for the audience, like what we're talking about here for everyone listening is whenever I'm on a podcast, whether it's on camera or off, a lot of times people ask me like, what methods do you do? And I'll say, well, listen, I take my own medicine. I use the methods in my book. That's how I've used it for a lot. But the one reliable thing that I do every day, no matter what, isn't in the book. And that's where, like I told you, I just leave a message on my iPhone that I text over to a friend, and he does the same thing every single day, just about what we're grateful for. And the strategy you both might remember is because there's a social pressure there, at least for me and him. So it keeps me on point, just in the sense that I don't want to let him down, thereby enhancing the habit, keeping it going. And what I love about what you both are saying here is you took that idea and you didn't rigidly stick to it the way I described it. You made it your own, which I love. I mean, that's the one lesson I always wish to impart to people. Like, I try to articulate things clearly. I try to make the instructions for all these methods really basic and simple, but I also want that invitation for people to tweak it in any way they want, as much as they want, because the whole point is feeling joy in the moment, thinking about what you have or what's on the way, or both. So thank you for confirming that you've been having such a good time doing it your way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I want to just point out one other thing about your book and what we're talking about right now is that everybody, and I go back to astrology, some people want to do exactly what's in your book. They have a lot of Virgo or something in them, and that drives their behavior. And when they know they have a lot of that, they're like, okay, well, this makes so much sense. It's like validation.
I need that. Yeah.
But your book really goes and hits every
style.
Every astrology style.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sure you have air because you like to talk. And so I'm like, okay, you have air in your chart. So, it from bouncing the racquetball or whatever the heck you've been, you have in your book and with your emails. So I'd say, that you also have to get your emails. You really hit everybody's sweet spot of how they learn or how they can flourish. And that's why you were able to title your book as such. That's what I think.
I'm trying to hit every single piece and trying to give variety, but also not trying to make it overwhelming. So thank you for that compliment.
That's true.
I wanted to ask you both, just because, again, you are experts through what you're doing here. What to both of you is the most meaningful way that you bring law of attraction into your life and invite it and use it to your benefit?
What do you got, Holly?
Well, I think
there's so many. That's why I'm like,
Well, I don't want to sound cliche, but I do this every day. And I believe that it's even more than I think a little more mystical. So like I feel like I have to bring meaning every day and service every day. And that doesn't have to be big service. I mean, just saying thank you is of service. And so my viewpoint is when I get up and hit the ground running every day, I'm excited to be alive. I have always done some manifestation practices. I bring meaning in everything that I do. I try to, and I think that I could be better recording the things that, because you don't. I would just say to the audience that write down all the things you manifest, because you don't realize how much you do just on a regular basis, and that gives you confidence, and so I don't do that enough, and then I share it, and then for me it's sharing it, whether I share it with Jeanna, I share it with my children, and I try to share it with all my friends, and of course we share through the podcast. I don't know. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Add something to that, Jeanna?
Other than, it was beautiful. But I do think for me, like I said, I grew up in a family where more holistic ways of thinking was actually pretty common discussion. And at the time, I was too young to really appreciate it, to be honest. I mean, I was aware of it. I feel like I have incredible intuition. And I take that for granted and haven't developed that as much, or at least for a period of time, kind of didn't rely on that as much or acknowledge it as much. And so I've definitely been doing a much better job over the last 10 years or so, honing that and crafting that and really listening to it the way I should. And so, but I think I like lots of different ways to get things, and I get bored easily. So I'm the kind of kid that drives out to go to work, and I'll either go right or left. And right is further, left is quicker. But if I don't feel like going left, I don't go left. And I like that there's so many elements of how you create joy in your life and how you live a really mindful life that's thought-provoking, joyful, giving, caring. And so I like to practice and weave different things in. And she, she's just like, she says I share it with friends. She actually she shoves it on people. It's not, I mean, that is sharing, but it's like I had a choice in the matter. Like, we're doing this week, we're going to practice this. And we talked a lot about for years is just playing and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And so, I think I asked you on the podcast, if you've got lots of different ways to apply law of attraction principles. Like, you just got to try them on, and whatever feels right to your soul. And they may change for good reason, and just being open to really listening to what is needed and applying whatever will help fill that up or develop a new muscle or whatever that is. So.
Yeah, she leads a lot with intuition with law of attraction, but it's you're I have a little bit more Virgo. I have a little bit more like, oh, I want to get up and do this, and you're more free flowing. Like
I have the eyes.
I'd be like,
my eyes don't ever look like that.
I gotta go left. I gotta get there. I gotta make things shit happen. Like we're dialed
very
completely differently.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. But it's a compliment.
Yeah. I love both your answers, and I get a few things out of it. I mean, regarding what Jeanna, what you just said, I love the fluidity and the ease with which you're like, it could be this, it could be that. I can do this today. I can do that today. I also appreciate, by the way, being exposed to things as a kid and just not appreciating it then. I've never been a very religious person, but as a kid, you see people say grace. Now, through the context of law of attraction, I appreciate what that's about being grateful for your food and infusing the food with a healing, loving energy that's going to be even better for your body and inviting more. And I never got that of something like that. And Holly, to your point, I'm paraphrasing you, but you basically advised keeping score, but not keeping score of the things you don't have, but keeping score of the things that have come in, which then reinforces your confidence and your enthusiasm to continue in any of these processes. So I love, again, you two, obviously you get to the destination in a different way because you're so different in that way. But I love how you're both so in harmony with such a healthy direction through this and through what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that analogy about prayer too at the table.
I hadn't thought about either, but you're absolutely
really thought about that. We did talk extensively on the podcast that never eat somebody's food if they cook when they're mad. And I was like, don't ever have your hair dyed or cut when their people are upset from their boyfriend or a breakup. Don't do it, okay? Because you're gonna have unhappy hair.
Or laundry,
Laundry. I was like, I used to hate doing laundry, and it clicked in my brain that I'm putting that energy on my children's clothes. And I was like, why would I do that? Why would I do that? So then it became fun. I went to do the laundry. I switched it up. I actually watched Netflix while I was doing the laundry on my little iPad, and it was nice. And I rolled it around and got done. And I've always liked it since then. Yeah. So it's like, you have to be conscientious. So that's what I always think about. You have to be conscientious of what energy you're putting out in the world.
Yeah. And joy's a choice, and I think, I had one of my first astrology readings, probably 12, 13 years ago, quite a while ago. And I remember she said, if it isn't fun, don't do it. I go, well, I mean, I do a lot of things that aren't fun. Like I'm in HR, like there's not a lot of things that aren't a lot of fun.
There's a lot.
But she goes, but if you come at it from a place of joy, you will get something from it. It's not going to be a task that you dread. You'll get something from it, and the task will be executed with more soul and spirit, right? So it's just, again, I think it's a choice, and Holly's been a fantastic example of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for that. I believe, like, I've had to fire somebody that I believe in that. I'm like, if it doesn't work for them, it's not working for them either. I've hugged them and said, I love you. This just does not work. And I mean, I meant it. I was like, you have to do what works for you. And, God bless you. We hugged, and I sent them with a blessing, all was on their way.
We got a restraining order shortly there.
I was about to say, like, human resources. Well, she hugged me, and now I've got a case.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I know. I shouldn't be left alone.
No, you shouldn't. No.
Awesome.
One time we were interviewing someone for her group. Asked me, she goes, "Is it okay do you think it's okay if they don't walk fast? Can I just not be interested?" I go, "No, you can't."
And then I said, "Can I ask them
what kind of dog
they would be if they were a dog?"
Forgot about that one.
And she's like, "No."
What would you do with that anyway?
Well, because you say, why do you like the dog? And so if they say they're loyal, or that they describe the traits that are within themselves. They project themselves on the dog. I mean, this is all psychology 101, which I've never taken, by the way.
I love that. You're right. You ask someone like that and they think you're crazy, but you're actually assessing them, their personality and what they're about. I think that's brilliant.
Right.
Awesome. So it's so funny. Like all these questions are popping in my head, but I'll keep you here for 3 hours if we follow all the threads. I am curious, since you've started a podcast, like what for you has been the greatest affirmation through the work that you're doing? Has there been feedback? Has it just been an experience you go through? What's been the best thing that you've received or enjoyed or experienced or noticed through doing this LOA Uncorked podcast?
So I was going to say the first thing was that we've gained so much confidence in doing this, confidence in what we know, and confidence in not self-criticism does not help you. So usually if you're getting criticized, it's your ego, and all about managing the ego, right? You got to kick that thing off your shoulder. And so we had a lot of the ego saying, don't do this. And we powered through all of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm so proud of the development that you've had, myself have had. And then we get responses from our audience saying, their life has changed now. I'm so happy I'm doing this practice or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Do you have?
No, exactly. I think I would have said it the same way. I think the unintended or unexpected value of what we originally decided was, let's do a podcast. We don't care how successful it is, although we're both very competitive people and we do care. But the point was, it's not about us. It's about delivering something and being a resource, like people felt like they were in the backseat on the drive to Seattle, be a resource and give to people in a way that was fun, light, authentic, and showed that, metaphysical things don't have to be super serious and heavy.
Yeah.
Like it can be small things. You practice on the small things, you practice in everyday living. And at that, coupled with, as Holly said, I think the confidence, I always hated my voice. I've always hated it.
It's a great voice.
When we first started talking to the audio engineer that's helping us, I said, can you not make me sound like a dude? I feel like I sound like a dude. And she goes, well, you don't sound like
best
a dude
ever.
But it's interesting. Like I have now I understand my voice differently. Like you listen to it and you go, huh. And it's all about it's just magical. And I actually really love it. I love my voice now. So things like that are just fantastic.
And I think we believe that laughter, so we always we don't plan it in the beginning. We always have something stupid going on that's funny. And so we think laughter actually elevates your spirit and your vibration. So that actually adds to joy. And that's actually a good time. That's why I laugh about, when we laugh about our gratitude, it actually invites the law of attraction, invites the universe in. It says, come here, universe. And I need these things, whatever they might be, things or places or whatever. So we believe that laughter is a part of that equation.
Yep.
Nice. Cool. So we're almost wrapping up here. And obviously I'm going to be putting, pertinent link or links in the description of the YouTube video. But if people want to connect with you or they want to listen to your podcast or anything, like what's the best way for them to find you?
Well, we have a website, LOAuncorked.com. And then you can find us on any of the typical podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, LOA Uncorked.
Yeah, and I would say go to the website because we have our 10 badassery principles. These are really important things that we live by.
Yep.
And you can go get our blog there, and also you can attach to any link. There's links to all the podcasts, all the platforms.
And we've just been doing the podcast. It was a year, mid-October. Mm-hmm. So I think we're on episode 29 or something like that. So we're still getting going. So the content will continue to grow. But hopefully that will help people get a flavor for the style of us a little bit more, and our podcast for sure.
Awesome. And I mean, I know we kind of hit the record button on this one and entered into it with no requirements or expectations, and we've just been having a flow of a conversation. But as we begin to wind down, was there anything that you were hoping to address or cover or bring up that we didn't have the opportunity to do yet? You're like, no, Andrew, you're the best interviewer ever. There's nothing. You've
It's the
covered
best
everything.
interview.
Of
I mean, I was
course
just
it is.
thinking of like, what should I out about Holly that would be important to just sneak in there right at the end, but I couldn't come up with something swift enough. So
No, I mean, honestly, we believe in the flow
Yeah.
is perfect and will be perfect for, you know, for the unfolding of for your audience. I mean, we just believe in that. And I do think that we would invite people to go take a look at our badassery principles. That'll tell you really quickly whether you're going to resonate with us or not. And
we are explicit. So
we are explicit.
Although
yeah.
it's, I mean, it's just,
all in
it's
fun,
not
though,
bad.
all in fun. And I think that's it. I mean, I think we, you know, we really enjoyed, you know, meeting you
Yeah.
and being here with you today. And
Yeah, in fact, you know, I guess the one thing I would add before we wrap up is we actually were talking after we finished the interview with you on LOA Uncorked, Andrew, and we're talking just about the word that kept coming to mind is just you're extremely generous. You're very
Yeah.
gracious and generous
mhm.
with
Thank you.
your thoughts, your
Time.
words, your time, your support has been incredible for us. And so it's just, you know, thank you for that.
Yeah.
It was felt.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate you both. I'm so glad that my audience can witness you, and like in all your energetically, you know, your back and forth, your banter. I love that they can experience this and get a sampling, and hopefully come find you on your podcast. And I really appreciate you both being here. I got to tell you, I have no idea how I'm going to title this. That's going to be the biggest challenge ever.
That's
because
fun.
That's the
Fun.
best
That's
part.
the best part.
You should try it. Like show notes on our show are interesting. Yeah.
Maybe that'll be the title. Titling this is the best part. We'll see if that like lays out. But that's my problem for a future date, if you can call it a problem. But this conversation was certainly not a problem, and I hope people really enjoyed it. And I also hope people even listen back, because, you know, through your direct, straightforward answers, there was also a lot of subtle hidden gold throughout there. A lot of good lessons people could pick up. I know I was picking up on a lot of that. So again, thanks so much for you being generous with your time, especially since you fell into my spam box and we got delayed by an hour before this, and just for being really awesome and sharing your joy, your gifts, and your insight with my audience. I appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you,
Likewise.
Andrew.
Thank you.